Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webcast. My name is Mike Otranto, and I'm a strategic account specialist at Microsoft. I'm also joined today on today's webcast with Jim Patterson, who leads in the business development role, and Matt Wiley, our product expert. Today, we will focus on time and financial integration with Project Online. After the webinar, you will receive an email with a copy of the recording and the slide deck so you can review. The line will not be open for questions, but you can type in your questions via the chat feature. So if you want to know more about Microsoft and who we are today, we're a Microsoft joint venture that was founded in 2002. We provide consulting, business process outsourcing, managed services, and global support for staffing. We're a triple gold Microsoft partner. Less than 1% of partners ever have that designation. We're certified in project portfolio management, collaboration and content, and cloud productivity. From a project and portfolio management standpoint, we have a deep expertise in Project Online and Project Server. So we have a lot of experience helping organizations maximize their efficiency and technological advantage. We have a footprint all over North America and internationally. I will now hand off the webcast to Jim Patterson. Jim?
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate the introduction. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for spending time with us today on this webcast. My name is Jim Patterson, and today we're going to be focusing on the topic of time and financial integration with Project Online. A little bit from an agenda perspective, what we intend to cover is some project and portfolio management concepts related to time and financial management. We'll give an overview of the Microsoft Project Online solution that addresses those. We'll talk about how that all manifests itself in an overall PPM lifecycle and how it incorporates those components. We'll then talk about the time and financial management capabilities in Project Online, and also some integration that can happen with financial systems via Microsoft's Project Connect solution. We'll demonstrate some of these things in action for you today, and then time permitting, we can talk a little bit about some general case studies and use cases for these types of things, and then wrap up with some summary and next steps. So that's our intention for today. So let's talk about project and portfolio management concepts as it relates to this topic today. We had given a webinar a while back on the overall project and portfolio management concepts and how they're manifested within the Microsoft PPM solutions. In that, we talked about things like pipeline management, resource management, change control, but financial management, which is the focus of our topic today, is really something that's important and to have these aspects under control, whether it be establishing the value of the projects and the budgets, having the financial controls to manage to those, or even to be able to do some advanced analytics and tracking using things like earned value methods or other project financial management techniques. So this is definitely a key component, whether you're looking at the project management body of knowledge from the PMBOK or other folks in this. It's definitely best practice to have the financial management pieces addressed well. And if we're looking at the financial management process itself, it really is at a high level the process of managing project costs. And so to do that, it really is different aspects of really initially estimating what those are going to be able to develop a project budget or a standard to which we're going to manage against, and then to control the spending throughout the entire life cycle of the project. And the key steps in there are cost estimation, and this is where we work with subject matter experts and the financial department to really estimate the costs for all goods, services, and labor that's required to deliver the project. Then budget determination is usually a negotiated process where we really get into detail and line item detail of cost categories and determine what an overall budget should be for this project, and then agree that this is the budget that will get allocated to by the organization. And then from the spending control perspective, it's when we start executing, we really then have to manage that cost to those budgets and making sure that we're tracking to finish under or at budget at the end of the project, and be able to control that spending and make adjustments as necessary over the life cycle of the project. All in all, the cost component or the financial management component is really a key aspect of the triple constraint that we see in project management, whether it be time that it takes and the schedule to get that project done, the scope and quality dimension of what it is we're going to actually deliver, and the cost, what must be done to produce the projects and that end result of what the budget amount is available to get that accomplished. Ultimately, as we know, that one side of the triangle in a project cannot be changed without affecting to some degree one or more of the other two legs of the triangle. The other aspect of that can be quality. So if we try to sacrifice or skimp or think there's a free lunch on any one of those other legs, sometimes what suffers is quality and actually can turn into a fourth constraint in this particular triangle. So a complete project management system and portfolio management system should incorporate all these dimensions, and success of a project is really measured by managing well to all of these dimensions. So let's talk about what's in Microsoft Project Online to address some of these things. If we look at Project Online, we have these different major capability areas. The portfolio management aspects, which can include just simply portfolio visibility into all of your projects, but it can also include intake and demand management, all the way through portfolio selection and optimization of picking the right projects to work on, and then portfolio level reporting all the way through that process. Then the project management, once we decide on the projects that we're going to execute on, all the scheduling, issue and risk management, project reporting, and that includes the financial pieces that we're talking about within there. The resource management component, which definitely is a big contributing factor in a lot of projects to the overall cost of the project. We can manage those things from a capacity planning perspective, from a resource engagements perspective, or even detailed tactical resource assignments, and then capture those things via things like timesheets to understand how we're actually spending that time as we go on through. As we look to move into the cloud with Project Online, it really offers us the opportunity to have a PPM digital workplace, meaning leveraging the infrastructure of the Office 365 cloud. You provide all of the redundant data centers, the 99.999% uptime service level agreement guarantee, and any of the compliance from a security perspective that's needed by organizations today and generally goes beyond what organizations can do for themselves. And then it really integrates with the rest of the Office 365 productivity platform in that just like you use email and Word and Excel and Skype, Project Online becomes just another service or application within that mix. And to that end, Project Online really is designed to be an end-to-end project and portfolio management solution from the early idea stage all the way through high-level planning and project selection, through all the execution, and all the business intelligence and reporting that you have as a natural output throughout the rest of that process. And as you see highlighted in blue here today, and some of the focus area that we're going to have here today is on the financial management capabilities and the time reporting for the actuals on the labor side of things that we might want to address through that. So if we look at this from an overall project and portfolio management life cycle, if we look at collect, analyze, select, plan, track, and then analyze again after we have some actuals, the idea is that we go through this process in a very deliberate and meaningful way. Ultimately, we collect the demand for work on an intake process. We kind of try to size and estimate and prioritize those things and prioritize that portfolio to determine, what it is that we should be working on to best contribute to the missions of the organization. Part of that process is really analyzing the financial impact, both from a cost and from a benefit and return perspective. And then through that process, we'll also analyze the resource demand and see if we have the resources to actually accomplish the things that we think we should be doing for the organization as we go through that selection process. And then ultimately, we take all those factors into play and we select the projects that we're going to work on and we approve and fund those things. So the funding is really the financial aspect of that. Then ultimately we have to detail those things out and tactically figure out how we're going to accomplish those things. So we project plan and we build out work activities. We assign resources to those particular tasks. We collaborate with teams from the project management organization to the functional management organization down to the actual resources that are actually executing. And then ultimately we track progress as we're in flight with the projects. And as we track those in flight, part of that tracking is not just progress, but it's also tracking time and spend on what it's actually costing us to actually achieve that progress. Ultimately, when we have that information and compare it against what we originally planned, we can then analyze that data and then determine if corrective action is needed. And if so, and if there's changes that are needed, we can actually go through that process again, over and over again, iteratively in a cyclical basis. So the idea, these are all the major project portfolio management cycle items that we go through through the life cycle of a project. And if we focus really down into the time and financial integration pieces of this, these are the components that need to be managed and sometimes enhanced within a solution. So you see the same cycle in the middle of this diagram that we talked about in the prior slide. But if we look from a budgeting and a funding perspective, over on the right-hand side, between that collect and analyze piece, what we want to do there is we really want to establish budgets and what our ask is of the organization for funding. So as we're going through that and as we're sizing what it's going to take, we have to kind of turn into dollars what the real ask is from the organization so that we can actually make that part of an overall business case. And we use things like a financial planner to do those things, to correlate as one aspect or one dimension of data of the overall project information. Then as we go over onto the left-hand side, the other aspect is we're between that track and analyze piece, and mostly on the track side of things. We want to collect time, and Project Online is providing an online and fully integrated timesheet capability so that we can actually then have the folks that are actually expending effort on these projects tell us where they're actually spending their time and to what degree they're spending time on the specific aspects of the project. Ultimately, the system of record for the financials overall of a particular project, of what we're spending, generally resides in the financial management system, and we see those things at the top, but oftentimes it's its own silo and its own, let's just say, group of users who own that particular piece of information. In an ideal world, we should be working in tandem with them so that the PPM solution is leveraging that information rather than having it be a silo of information in and of itself. So when we're collecting time and some other information, the PPM solution may have some of its own cost and actuals information, but things like real pay rates and procured costs on things that have been ordered with purchase orders and invoices that have been paid, those things may be the exclusive domain of the financial system. So in order to understand fully the actuals of a project, we have to leverage some of the data that's in that solution. Ultimately, at times, though, because of financial management timelines and processes, sometimes we don't get that information until the books are closed, until they're validated and reports are put out. And sometimes that means there's a lag for us getting that information as we're trying to manage our projects real time. So as we're going through timesheets and Project Online, there is its own capability that's built in natively into that solution. It allows you the ability to track project and non-project time. It allows you to collect time phase actuals and hence costs, because our resources can actually have costs associated with them within the solution. And we really have the ability to have approvals and maintain some type of spend control so that as timesheets and entries are entered into the solution, both project and resource managers can actually review and approve that time to make sure that things are being charged properly to the right charge, to the right projects, to the right elements within those projects, and maintaining some level of financial control around that. We do have the ability to leverage third-party timesheets that may be in play, but there's no real need to use a third-party timesheet if you have the Project Online timesheet. But if one is already in play, that's where the Project Connect and being able to leverage time that's being entered in other solutions and have that brought into the solution for an overall inclusion into our Project Online data is definitely a possibility and a use case that we often address. And then from a time management perspective, what's nice about the Project Online solution is its native connectivity to reporting and Power BI, meaning different report packs that are available here for us to capture rich time-related information, both from timesheets and other sources. And basically that native connection allows us to report on this data as a natural output of the process. These pre-built reports or report packs that are available mean that what people are doing today in a lot of cases that are highly manual, where they export data, pull them into spreadsheets, slice them and build charts, and do that over and over again on a cyclical basis on different reporting periods, is no longer necessary, as things like timesheets entered, compliance and how things are getting through the approvals process, and all that type of information can then be at our fingertips if we leverage this through an integrated solution like Project Online. From a financial management perspective, the ability to use a financial planner to enter budgets to the desired level of granularity, to the categories that we want to charge, that we want to budget and track time against, to be able to track actuals against that budget and get variances and maybe even heat map views like you see up here on where we're actually falling off track. And be able to do on the right here, the charting of plan versus actual and other metrics, and have that be a natural capability or output of the solution. If done properly, it truly does become a natural output of the process. So the key is to be able to track these things or plan these things up front from a budgetary perspective, to then capture in real time the actuals that are coming in against these, and then really do some variance analysis so that we can see where we're falling off the rails and where we need corrective action, is something that's very powerful in order to ultimately bring these projects in at target. And Wickersoft Project Connect really allows us to do this. If we think about this as a cloud-based integration platform that sits in the Microsoft Cloud along with Project Online, and think about Project Online being the center or the hub of all your project and portfolio management information, there are a number of use cases that basically make this work beyond just financial systems. As you can see over here, if you might have other projects being done in more agile systems for software development like Visual Studio, Jira version 1, those can be incorporated into the project portfolio and Project Online via Project Connect, a bi-directional integration. If you have CRM or other professional services systems like Salesforce or Microsoft Dynamics, those can be incorporated into the mix as well. Unstructured work or IT service management work and things like ServiceNow are incorporated into the mix through Project Connect, meaning that the tools being used by other constituencies that are now silos, that information can be leveraged by Project Online because of the existence of Project Connect and leveraging that data in a meaningful and automated way. Even simple task planning tools like Office 365 Planner and SharePoint can be incorporated into that mix as well. But if we extend and focus onto the financial side of things, ultimately there's a lot of things we can do with the integration with financials. Because we talked about earlier on, it often is the appropriate or ruling system of record for a lot of that financial data that's related to our projects, whether it be true pay rates of our resources, whether it be purchase orders that are let and commitments that are made, invoices that are paid, and other things. They generally exist within those financial systems. And also they have their own set of cost account codes that they're tracking to that may or may not be the way we are looking at the project from a deliverables perspective as we schedule it out. So how do we leverage that information in PPM without manual intervention or duplicate data entry and doing the data gymnastics that we talked about? The answer is to provide through Project Connect whatever level of bi-directional integration is required so that we don't have those interim steps that are at least manual or semi-manual every reporting period, and is really a less than productive way to approach that. So from an analytics and integrations perspective, what's really powerful is the tie-in with Project Online and Power BI. If we start looking at Project Online by itself, it provides a robust data set of information of different dimensions of project information. And if through Project Connect we start incorporating data from other sources like Agile tools, financial systems, ITSM tools, whatever it might be, that data set becomes even more robust and richer. And these out-of-the-box reporting or built-in reports and financial summaries allow us to get visibility into those things. Like, for example, the bar chart or column chart on the left that basically is showing us cost by time, both planned and actual cost, and really tracking those things from budget, forecast, and actual, and what those variances are. Or looking at reports like on the side from a financial summary that's leveraging more predictive looks and trending looks to tell us based upon the current levels of spend where it looks like we're going to end up, and to be able to give us that look ahead into the analytics that we want to have so that we can take the appropriate corrective actions as are needed. And also just regular tabular reports so that we can look at the data elements, plan versus actual versus remaining, look at the returns on investment, the variances across those things, and slicing those things, whether it be on an overall spend by portfolio, by project. This is data that now can be visualized and presented to you in a way that's sensible for the way and your role in the project is being managed, without having to mash this data together from a variety of different data sources. So with that, I think what we'll do is let's go into a demonstration. We'll talk about the case studies afterwards, but Matthew Willey is going to take control and lead us through a demonstration of some of these capabilities.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Jim. So I'm logged into Project Online, and you can see a list of all the different projects here grouped by portfolio, and you can see some cost-related information to those particular projects, as well as a high-level timeline there. So I can see things like the budget match, cost variance, how far we're off, so on and so forth. But where does this all come from, and how are all the different ways that we can integrate this and also report on this data as well? Let's take a dive in and check that out. So if I go into one of my projects here, like my social networking integration project, one of the very first things I might do is go build out a high-level budget. So if I open up our financial planner here, I can come in and I can start to key in my budget here. And so we can do that just at a very high level, break things down into different categories like equipment, software, labor, etc. And we can even break that into different expense types like capital expenses, operational expenses, or break it out into any other structure you want. So this is configurable. So we would set this up with your categories and break it into the different types of expenses that you want to break things up into your cost structure, so to say. From there, it can be as simple as just keying these things in. Think of this like an online Excel spreadsheet. So let's say I have equipment costs in February of $10,000. I can just key that in, move on. And so this is one way that you can go about building a budget within the system, and I'll show another example in just a second. There are multiple different ways, depending on what level of detail you're really looking to do at this point. This is more of a top-down, high-level budget. We can get into more detailed bottoms-up budgets and so on and so forth if needed. Later on, then you can even use this to start tracking your forecast. So I initially thought I was going to spend about $5,000, and now looking at it, looks like it's going to be more like $8,000. And so we can update these forecasts and try to be a little bit more predictable about our costs as we see things are going to change, and give that information to finance and the business as a whole. Later on, then even we can start to track actuals in here. These could just be keyed in, but also they could be integrated. So these could actually come out of your financial system based off of the invoice process, the amount of labor spent, contractors, etc. You know, all the different costs rolling back together, so that project managers can get more real-time visibility into these actual costs as they're coming into the project, instead of, in a lot of organizations, there's a monthly Excel spreadsheets or something of that nature that gets sent out that people can then view. Sometimes monthly is just not soon enough, and that can create issues and not give you enough real-time visibility into what's going on, right? So how does that all happen? Let's jump into it and take a look here. So if I come in and I select my social networking integration project, that same project we were just looking in, there is a tab in here that we add called the Connect tab. And under that Connect tab, it can tell it, you know, which tools are we going to integrate this project with. In this case, I have it integrated to SAP. However, it could be integrated to other financial tools, as Jim mentioned, PeopleSoft, Oracle, Deltek is one we've done, you know, so on and so forth. So, and what this really is just, I need a way to connect the project in Project Online to the project or cost bucket, if you want to call it that, over in your financial system. And generally that's done by using the unique identifier or the ID of that project over at SAP. So now these projects are connected together. We know this project in Project Online equals this project over in SAP in my use case here, right? From there, now the projects are connected. And let's say now I'm going to go and build a more detailed project schedule. I've been assigned as the project manager. I go and I build my project schedule and put in all my different tasks and such, and I'm breaking this down. You know, my project's been approved and all of that. I need to tell it then which tasks go to which cost buckets over in Project Online. So, in SAP. So generally in SAP, there may be 4 or 5 different buckets where those hours go to, and then costs are generated based off of rates and such. And so the problem with that is that it's generally not enough detail for a project manager to understand where that time is really going. They might be just very high level buckets. And so what this allows me to do is I can create a little bit more detailed buckets or tasks, but then I can map those, say everything in this scope section here is mapped to this particular bucket for that project in SAP. And so as people start to track time on these items, that time will come in. I will, as the project manager, will get visibility into what tasks that time, deliverables, milestones, et cetera, that time is being spent on. But it still rolls up into the proper location in SAP. So finance, accounting gets what they need to still be able to generate the actual costs. And then those actual costs can roll back in, as they're adding up, those actual costs will start to come back in, to these different line items or at a higher level in the cost planner as I showed, as well as in reports, which I'll show in just a second. So by doing this mapping, we can still capture the time being spent over here in Project Online and get more detailed information into where that time's going, but fulfill the need of the financial system as well and get it to the right place at the end of the day. So with that, let's go ahead and jump on into some reports then. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Power BI. And Power BI can tap into all of this great data, and then we can get more formatted types of reports, and we can give this to stakeholders, to managers, executives, whoever it might be. So I'll come into one of our financial reports here within the out-of-the-box report pack. And this particular one has some really great information in it. On this first page here, we just get kind of an overview of the financials. This visual in particular, and I'll zoom in on it here so you can see a little bit better, shows me all of the different portfolios that we have. And so these are rolling up costs across my different portfolios. And I can see my budget versus my actual costs and versus I'm even bringing in benefits as this red line here. But the really cool thing is within Power BI, you have drill-in capabilities. So if I come in and I click on the cut cost portfolio, this is my portfolio of all my cost-cutting projects. If I click on that, it'll drill in and then show me all of the individual projects within that portfolio. So where those costs are really coming from and rolling up to. So you can kind of get a higher level picture of what's going on, or you can drill in and get more details if you choose to do so. And down across the bottom, I can also do time phase costs. So this is showing me my budget versus my actual costs over time. And if this green goes over the gray area here at any particular point in time, then that shows me that I exceeded my budget for that particular period of time. And these dashed lines are the trends, so we can see how that's trending. You can also come and filter this down though. So if I only want to see certain things, I just want to look at a specific portfolio, my cost portfolio, I can come in and just focus on that particular portfolio, so on and so forth, and utilize the filters to just look at a specific program or project or department or whatever it might be, depending on what you want to look at. Going down the line, there's some other tabs here that we can look at these costs in different ways. So this is more like a traditional Excel report would look. And so this one's showing me costs broken out by portfolio. And then I can see those costs broken into different quarters. So it's time-phased here, and then the total per year. The next one is the same report, except for it's showing for each project instead of grouped up by portfolio. But we could group it up by anything, by program, by department, whatever you would like. These can be tweaked and modified very easily to do that. This one showing the same thing, the list of all the projects and the costs by quarter and totaled up by year, but it's showing the budget versus the actual cost for each quarter. So giving you a little bit more information there. And the cool thing with all of these reports I always get asked is, can we get this out to Excel? Absolutely. If I come here and I say export data, I can export that out either to an XLSX or a CSV. So you can still get that out to Excel if you want it that way for whatever reason, as well as I could print this out to PDF or just publish it to the web and share a link with someone. I can even export this into PowerPoint and have a live PowerPoint slide where you could utilize during presentations and such, and be able to actually click around and drill in and drill out on these different pieces of data, which is really cool as well. Or even subscribe to it, so I get an email daily, weekly, however often I want of that particular report, just automatically sent to me. So lots of different ways you can consume these reports, including Excel. So on this last tab, we're actually doing some really cool stuff here. This one is using what's called predictive analytics. And so this is a feature that allows you to predict things out into the future. In this case, we're predicting costs. So the green line here is actual costs over time. But then the gray area here are my prediction of costs out into the future. The top part of the gray area is the high prediction, the bottom part's the low, and then the middle is the average. If you give this more data, this prediction will actually start to get jagged, and it will recognize cyclical trends and show you, we always have a whole lot of costs in December, and it will actually account for that. And you can put a confidence factor here. So you can say, I want to be 95% sure that my costs are actually going to fall somewhere within here. And that's what this is actually set to. But notice as you get farther out in the future, the area gets bigger because it's more difficult to predict where those costs are going to be as you get, say, a year out, which is what this one is doing here. So, but we can start to get those predictions and not just show, current data, but actually show where we think we're going to go in the past and make sure it looks like we're going to be on track as well. So with that, hopefully you can see how you can manage all of your projects in Project Online. You can track more detailed time there if necessary, but still roll back in all of those costs from your financial system so you get real-time visibility into the actual costs from the financial system as there's happening. It's kind of the best of both worlds. The PMO, project managers, et cetera, get what they need, the information they need to be able to manage these projects properly. Finance, accounting gets what they need to be able to make sure we're keeping up our requirements as a corporation and meeting, laws and rules and, so on and so forth, as well as just understanding from a business perspective how we're doing. And so it can really tie those together. There are other use cases that we've done for customers and that we can do, but that's generally, the most common one that we see and that can provide the most value for people. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Jim, and he got just a couple more slides for you, and then we'll let you guys go for the day. So there you go, Jim.
All right, are you guys seeing my slides?
Yes, I can.
Okay, terrific. All right, let's talk about some case studies or use cases for this as well. Thank you, Matthew. For an IT PPM financial time management use case, some of the challenges that we run across is, often the project managers and the PMO are not getting the financial granularity they need on a timely basis either. And oftentimes there's disparate systems, as we talked about earlier on, for managing projects, project financials, and the timesheets themselves. The process for bringing these things together often manifest themselves in excessive overhead and maintenance costs because of the manual nature of maintaining this and getting the reporting and information out that we want. So largely it breeds inefficiencies for managing the project financials and impacts project performance if we don't get the information on a timely basis when we can make decisions and corrective actions on a more timely basis. It also gives us the challenge that if we rely on the financial systems or the vendor management systems for external labor, we may not get visibility into that, and sometimes up to 30 days lag time if it's a monthly reporting cycle for closing the books on those types of things. The idea here is, and I guess you can leverage onto that, the Agile teams that may be in an Agile system, and they're actually putting their progress and time potentially in a different system. And not having the actuals at the right level of detail or until after the books close means we can't manage with the positive confidence that we would need, that we would have on a more current data basis. So really the leveraging of Microsoft Project Online with the integration with financials in SAP or with the Agile project management in, say, VSTS or Team Foundation Server, for example, would bring this data together on a seamless, routine, scheduled basis so that all of the manual effort doesn't have to happen. And if we leverage in the Microsoft Financial Planner into this, such that we can actually leverage all of that information, both from a budget and an actual perspective, and then leverage Power BI for the reporting, we have data at our fingertips that's a natural output of the process. And the idea here is the maintenance cost savings is, solely at the minimum on the labor savings on the manual things that we have to do today, and allowing us to redirect our time to more high value types of services and tasks, as well as being able to have more current information so that we may actually manage the project more effectively and bring it in at a better cost number than we would have otherwise. The idea is that we have a cloud-based repository and a scalable platform that makes it easy to grow this thing as we need to, and just the flexibility to meet the needs of the PMO, the finance, and the IT teams by tying together things that are more conducive, or having them working in their preferred tools, but having that combined data set be available to us on an ongoing basis. So in a simple case here, you could be looking at the finance team, building different, say, cost account codes and things like that we have to track to in there, but having that map, as Matthew showed us, to project WBS codes that are in the Microsoft project plan. We can then actually use the ability of Wickersoft Project Connect to leverage that data to tie it off to, and in this case, as a phase one, perhaps we don't have access directly to the financial management system. In a lot of organizations, they don't let you tie or talk directly to the financial system, but we actually could talk to a billing report or some extract table of that to make sure that the connection between the project management solution and the financial system is done. And any information that we need to either send to the financial system or at least get back to the project system from the financial system makes the trip. So an easy way to do that is to use some interim transitionary type of extract file or extract data table, set of data tables to make that happen. Now, ultimately, we can go into a phase two with more mature, and Wickersoft Project Connect really does support API-based, direct connections. And given the policies of the financial group within an organization, we can leverage that. So without that interim file, we can actually get information to and from, say, in this case, SAP or other financial solutions using the APIs that are available to and from it. And then ultimately, you could throw into that Agile piece like we talked about in the mix. If we have then Project Connect bringing in the data from the Visual Studio VSTS or TFS Team Foundation server, where they may be managing more agile work elements and they're putting actuals in progress in there, that information can seamlessly flow to Project Online, so that when Wickersoft Project Connect connects Project Online to the financial system, it's incorporating that data as well, meaning we're not manually trying to mash that together before we get data from or to the financial system. Once again, creating more efficiencies and less complexity in the process, and also much more quicker turnaround time in order to get that information together. From a defense contractor scenario, of which we've done several, the challenges are similar, but a little bit different in the fact that they have a lot of different systems that are disconnected and various methods for managing very complex master schedules. Those master schedules on large, say, aerospace and defense contracts can be enormous. And then maintaining those legacy systems and the complexity of those sometimes requires excessive overhead maintenance for just maintaining those systems. And then there's inefficiencies because of the manual nature of way those folks have to integrate cost and schedule for some of the reporting and other analytics that are needed. It often requires these lengthy periods for status reporting and revisions and iterations that have to happen before they get to something that they can actually do high confidence reporting across the different programs. And essentially, it breeds inefficiencies of leveraging different staff across multiple programs that may be doing things in slightly different ways because of the manual nature of that. Ultimately, the bringing together of Microsoft Project Online to manage hierarchical integrated master schedules, and then be able to integrate seamlessly with financials like from Project Connect with SAP, Oracle, Deltek is one that's used heavily in this industry. And then the software components are often managed with agile tools like VSTS, TFS, Jira, etc. And Wickersoft Power BI once again brings that information together once we've integrated that data through a more seamless fashion with our integration platform. Ultimately, there's a component here that isn't in the IT management, which is typically the earned value management that's required for reporting up to the government and other things. And those may or may not be in place, but we can deal with those as well. And so the variation here is that the Microsoft Project Online is really the schedule management solution. And as Matthew showed you, different charge codes can be mapped over to the cost accounts that are being tracked in this industry. And that as you track schedules, you can actually get the earned value metrics of budgeted cost of work scheduled and budgeted cost of work performed, because those are all progress-based pieces of information. And then where the actuals really reside are in the financial system, in this case, SAP. And to do earned value management, you really have to combine those sets of data, meaning the progress data and the schedule data with the financial data, so that you can truly get good integrated project data and data that's usable for earned value management. So those are just some of the things that we can talk about in those. And obviously, there's a lot of permutations and variations on the theme that might be unique to your particular organizations, and that would lead us into summary and next steps. You know, the overall value of time and financial integration is really to reduce your reliance on disconnected spreadsheets or highly manual processes. And I think we've shown that and spoken to that sufficiently. But also to improve the cost management of initiatives and projects. If we can get more timely information and more accurate information, we can do a better job of managing those costs through the life cycle and bring things under budget more. We can also accurately measure project financials, budgets, and return on investments to stay on track with key performance metrics that are natural output of the process, and just provide visibility either at a more detailed level or in an organizational-wide view to whatever level of detail the project and portfolio financials are required. And if we can integrate the project planning functions with the financial planning and forecasting, we can better meet project objectives and stakeholder objectives because we have better tools and better information for decision support. And that integration with existing financial applications is strong because those will always be the system of record for that financial information. You know, Mike in the beginning talked about Wickersoft. Just to reiterate, we do provide any of the consulting, business process outsourcing, managed services, and staffing that you might need to support your efforts in project and portfolio management, which includes the financial management aspect of things. And so we have a global footprint, which means we can help even you multinational folks deploy these things and support these things on an ongoing basis. We also, beyond just the project and portfolio management in Microsoft Project Online, we also support professional services automation in Microsoft Dynamics. We also do help people with the scaled agile management or agile management pieces using things like Visual Studio from Microsoft, as well as helping them with basic enterprise work management and collaboration with SharePoint-based solutions. Ultimately, the cool thing is they all talk and can get reporting and analytics through Power BI, meaning no matter what the area or need is in the organization or what technologies might be being used here in the Microsoft stack, the analytics and that part of the equation is very powerful. So from a next steps perspective, if you like what you've seen, we've given you a very generalized overview of these use cases in this topic area. We're happy to give you kind of a free assessment and roadmap of what it would take to get you into these capabilities, whether you're using Project or Project Online today or not. We're also happy to set you up with a Project Online trial and give you chaperoned Wickersoft support so that you have a successful experience through that trial and be able to try out some of the things that are unique to your organization. If even before that, if this was too generalized and you want a more personalized one-on-one demo for you or your organization, happy to talk to you about your use cases and your requirements and actually give you something a little more targeted to your needs. We do these webinars with different topic areas on a weekly basis. We have a whole library of on-demand ones that have already been done that have been recorded and a list of upcoming webinars you can register for at wickersoft.com/webinars. If you want to contact us, you can email us at nasales@wickersoft.com. That's for North America sales at wickersoft.com. Or if you want to talk to me directly about some of the things we talked about, you can reach out to me at jpatterson@wickersoft.com. So thank you for your time today. Check out our websites. You don't have to write any of this down. We will be sending you copies of the slide deck and a link to the recording once it's been processed. Thank you again, and hope we can be of service to you in the future. Have a great day.